Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times. Welcome to my channel, welcome to more Rome 2 Total War, and welcome to just a little bit of another talk about different factions of this game. This time we're going to talk about playing as a non-power faction, and that's sort of the Athens, Carthage, the Pontus, and the Spartans to a lesser degree. These are all factions that don't really have any great elite units and don't really have any way to break through a line all that decisively. Carthage has their elephants, which are very unreliable at best, and they've all got fairly okay shock cavalry, but none of them have the same sort of punch or power that other factions do have, which makes it so that they're often overlooked as weaker factions in this game. And I think that there are ways to play them where you can definitely win and use what they've got to their advantage. So for example, as Carthage, you've got plenty of cheap, inexpensive, yet effective units. Late Carthaginian hoplites and Sacred Band are relatively inexpensive for what they can do. African pikemen have very decent stats, all in all, for what they are capable of doing, especially their melee attack for a pike unit. So these sorts of units are what makes Carthage sort of effective, and these, as you noticed, are not killing units. These are all sort of holding units. And the problem with building an army around those holding units is that, well, obviously you don't actually kill anything. So one of the other advantages that you might want to consider when you're one of these factions is taking a numerical superiority over your opponent. So if I were to look at, for example, a traditional power faction, let's say that I play it as the Egyptians. If I take my general in the Royal Peltasts and I take, say, 6 units of these Galatian Royal Guard, I've spent quite a lot of money already, and I think my money is botched somehow. What the hell's going on here? Strange. Okay, so that looks better. Anyway, as you can see, I've got these really elite infantry. I've got quite a bit of them. And I could take, for example, some Ptolemaic cavalry. I could take some elephants. I could take an elephant. And then I could just sort of fill it in with chevrons or something like that. And this army is very strong. This army is very difficult for a lot of people to beat just because all of the units are so difficult to kill. All the units are so capable of smashing through and destroying your equivalent units. But then we look at a force like Carthage. These guys don't have anything like that. Their noble cavalry is fairly expensive for what it can do. It's not as good as other cavalry for its price point. Elephants are good at certain things, but they're unreliable. The Libyan infantry is efficient, but it's a middle-tier infantry unit. It's not going to do the same sort of things that a Galatian Royal Guard could do. And obviously, they're good units, they're highly efficient units. Things like the late Carthaginian hoplites, the Sacred Band, and the African pikemen. These units do not have a lot of killing power. So how do you win as Carthage against those sorts of more powerful factions? Well, if I were to compare that, I could take a cheap general, since I'm using him for the leadership. I could take like 8 of these pike units, pretty inexpensive. Like the 8 of these guys is cheaper than the 6 of those Galatian Royal Guard. I could take like 4 of these Carthaginian pike groups. I could take a couple of these Sacred Band. For a little bit of power, I could take these African war elephants, but ultimately what these guys are going to be for is for a morale break. They're not actually really there for fighting. And let's reduce this down a little bit and take a little bit of cavalry here, since I want to be able to clear away skirmishers if I absolutely have to. So you've got this army here that's a lot larger than that sort of Ptolemaic Egyptian army, and you can use that to your advantage by having your units present sort of a stronger front than they can muster, while at the same time moving around their flanks, or by constantly reinforcing faltering parts of your line. And in particular with pikes, I like that second style where you're constantly reinforcing your line. And it works for most of the non-power factions, except for Athens to a certain degree, since you don't want to use their pikes. But basically, these factions can rely very heavily on a different style of fighting, where instead of decisively smashing through things, you just sort of eventually wear through and grind them down with those highly defensive units. And eventually your opponent's resources and army is going to get exhausted, run down, and you're going to be able to win. So let's look at a quick battle here. See if we can find ourselves a match. Looks like we can. Now, it's not always a good idea to use the strategy, and it's not always an appropriate time to select this sort of way of fighting. So don't expect necessarily that it's going to be the best way of you going about this. Let's see, it's a dry day in Arce. That's not going to be a terrible thing for this sort of style of fighting. So let's Yeah, let's go ahead and pick Carthage, actually. Actually, no, let's pick Pontus. Let's pick Pontus. And Pontus, as you know, has the silver or bronze shield pikemen. They're a little bit more expensive than the North African pikemen, but they're a little bit better in some ways. And as you can see, my opponents picked a very traditional power faction. They picked Egypt, which is a really strong faction. But one of the things that I can do that differentiates myself from factions like Egypt is that my army roster is relatively inexpensive. So I can do things like take a lot of these pike units, and I can take a lot of these archer units, and I can even take, if I want, let's go ahead and take the traditional Pontic force that I like to take here, and take some archers, some artillery here. So when we're in this sort of battle, in this sort of situation, my army does not have any really great killing units. Even that artillery is just sort of to compel him to come forward. What it does have is a lot of units that can gradually whittle away at his health, take damage off of him until eventually he loses all of his units to attrition. And that attritional style warfare is not what a lot of people like, and it's not what a lot of people think is appropriate. But when you outnumber your opponent by this much, you know, as much as I'm expecting to against, you know, you never know against a Seleucid player, but as much as I expect to outnumber him by, I expect to be able to do certain things because of that. Okay, so here we are in the battlefield. So we're going to go ahead and put all of our bronze shield pikes, except our general, up in the front here. And this is just going to be so that we can use him as a sort of reserve. And we're going to fill our back sidelines with these hoplites, so that they can operate as guards for our flanks. And we're going to actually have our missile troops up front, so we're going to actually move this formation back a little bit.
Ready! Run shield pikes!
Now, as you can see, this is a pseudo-box formation, and it's not really that much of a box formation because we have got a stronger front than we have got an overall formation, which, you know, is going to be pretty atypical of a true box, but it's what we're going for here since we want to be able to move aggressively forward against our opponent. And we want to be able to cause damage to our opponent and come to grips with him. We don't want to have to worry about our army being sort of surrounded. And to avoid that happening, you can just sort of move your army as though it were more or less an aggressive force. So here we got our opponent's army. We can see that he's got elephants immediately. We can see he's got his own thorax pikemen. He's got a lot of Azat knights, which are a really good sword unit. We're going to go ahead and bring our skirmishers forward. We're going to want to try and get some hits against them with our skirmishing horse here, even though we're not going to get good shots in this dense terrain. Okay, so he's trying to turn in there, so we're going to go ahead and turn around early here. Looks like our artillery can start firing now. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, so let's get these guys in pike wall formation. Let's keep our general in the back lines, though. Don't want him doing anything too dangerous. And let's just keep picking away at these Azat knights a little bit. We still got our sides guarded by these hoplites. Let's see, what's he using here? Eastern Javelin Men. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a skirmishing line that our opponents brought up against us. Nothing really all that serious or effective, so we're not going to worry too much about it. As you can see, we've taken out some of these Azat knights already. But our opponent is pretty heavily outnumbered. Okay, we're going to have to get back to defend these backlines and defend this artillery. I don't know why my
Ready!
Frames are dropping so much.
My lord!
Oh god. Oh god, what's going on?
As you command!
I think I got the order off.
Forward!
Okay, so let's get our army sort of facing a different direction here.
Understood! Our waiting orders! Complete! Ready! Orders!
This is running really, really poorly, guys. Do apologize.
Riders! At the double! Engage! At the double! Orders! Riders! Advance! Advance at speed!
Okay, so let's continue getting our lines away from this hellhole.
Riders! Advance! Charge! At speed! By your command! Understand! Orders understood!
Our orders!
Riders! Advance! Archers! With bird! Commander! By your command! We await your order!
Alright. Well, things are going a little bit strangely here.
Back! Back now! Break! Our orders! General! Orders understood!
Oops.
Pull back! Understand that! Double! Advance! Order! Awaiting orders! As you wish!
Okay, so looks like one of our units somehow got up there. I don't really know how. I don't really care. We're gonna try and get all our units back on track, though.
Yes, Commander!
Including getting these guys turned around here.
Orders understood! Spearman, ready for order! Understood! Hoplites, ready! As you could double! Hoplites! Engage! General! Follow me! Hoplites, ready! Bronze shield pikes! Move out!
Okay, so it looks like things are going a little bit strangely here, which is, you know, pretty typical for me, actually.
By your command!
Elephants are stampeding, which is not actually a bad thing necessarily, but
Advance!
definitely not advantageous or anything.
General! At speed! On a guard! Orders understood!
Was that knight still taking damage? Doesn't look like it. Okay, let's get our hoplites. We can get our hoplites in the flank here since he counts as being tied up in this side.
Command! Marching order! March!
Let's try and get our horse or our horse archers over there.
Hoplites, ready! Yes, Commander! On me! Hack them down! Follow me! As you command! Advance! Ready! At the double! Cut them down! Quickly now! Tax the echoes! For order!
Now, the advantage of fighting against certain things becomes a bit apparent here. He's going to run out of ammunition really, really quickly.
Orders by who? Riders at the double! Bronze shield pikes! There's your seven. Your orders. Understood! Swift and accurate! Forward! Charge! Awaiting orders! Yes!
Okay, so what the hell is going on here?
Back, men! Back! Bronze shield pikes! Cavalry! Missiles ready! Engage! Orders! Riders!
Okay, I'm not sure how much ammunition his javelin men have left.
To arms! Charge!
Let's see here.
At the double! Understays! Marching!
Oh god, this lag.
Orders!
Lag is brutal here.
Daxiarchos! Engage! Ready! Orders understood. Yes,
Okay, let's try and get rid of these guys as quickly as possible.
victory! Charge! Yes, Commander! As you command! Engage! Ready to by your command! Marching order! Yours to command!
I have no idea what the hell's going on anymore. Okay,
Ready to me! Commander! Yes, for glory! As you command! Follow me! Pull back! As you command! Follow me! Orders! Understood! Orders understood! General! By your command!
let's see if we can catch up to this cavalry here. I don't know why these slingers have decided to target those guys. Very peculiar.
We await your orders! Pull back! 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 Withdraw! Hoplites, ready! Yes, Commander! Marching order! Ready and waiting!
Okay, it looks like we've got most of this battle wrapped up. He still got around to my archers, but that's for my slingers. That's fine though. At this point, they're not going to do us a whole lot of good. But as you can see, it's just sort of a battle of attrition at this point.
Attack their position! Ready and waiting! By your command! Yes, Commander! Ready for orders! Back! Back now! Back! Back! Withdraw! Orders understood!
Let's see here.
General! Directed! Advance!
Azat Knights are still there.
Hoplites!
Oops, nope, these are hoplites.
Engage! Glory! Understood! Attack the charge! As you command! To forward! Break the lines! Await your command! On me! Advance on speed!
Slingers are back in action.
Ready! Hoplites! The double shield pikes! General!
I want to get rid of units quickly, and I want my general to last a little bit.
We await your command! Advance! As you come for glory! Forward! Orders advance!
So if I can break this unit of Azat Knights, it's pretty likely that he's going to actually chain route at this point. So, looks like I got rid of the last of his infantry,
Glory!
and it looks like I'm going to be able to start a chain route here. Yeah, almost definitely. Okay, so as you can see, very bloody battle, very bloody fighting style, but it does work.
By your command!
And I've played against this guy before. He's actually really good. He's beaten me a couple times. So this is not really a strategy that I think is going to work for you every time. And it definitely has its flaws to it. But you can just see how much I outnumbered him by and how much that really can matter sometimes, where you're willing to just throw away unit after unit after unit, even though he's got like a unit with 178 kills, another one with 158 kills. Well, actually, I've got one with 142 kills. That's not bad, and I've got a horse archer with 146. So, you know, there is some units that we're doing particularly well, but still, this was an example of just sort of grinding someone with, strictly speaking, better units than you down over a long battle. And thanks to that lag, I was getting a lot of really bad clicks there, but you know, that's not really an excuse, because I'm assuming he had lag just as bad as mine. So anyway, I hope that you found this informative. I know I got a bit intense there and wasn't talking as much as I could have, but I think I got sort of the point across that, you know, you can sort of get into those grinding battles, those long, vicious battles where eventually you wear down an opponent and they just sort of lose enough troops that you win through attrition alone. I think that is a viable way to play, and it's sort of how you have to play those sort of weaker factions like Pontus, like Carthage, and to a certain extent like Athens. Anyway, I hope you found this informative, and as always, I hope to see you all next time.